That's right. Oh yeah. Amazon is what? Oh, yes, Amazon's a monopoly. Platform businesses have two customers. They have a consumer and they have a producer. And when platform businesses achieve monopolistic scale, wrote a book about this, who do they take advantage of? It's actually not the consumer, it's actually the producer. So for Amazon, that's a third-party seller. Amazon but actively subverted and cheated to have its own 1P inventory in addition to 3P. An online merchant spent 18 months and $200,000 in legal fees after Amazon booted them off and seized their inventory. Amazon managers incentivized sales reps to engage in racketeering by giving them recruitment quotes and expecting them to satisfy large chunks of those quotas by targeting and illegally recruiting eBay sellers. If you were to break out direct retail, prime, and marketplace. Marketplace is driving relatively way more profit than AWS. Their estimate is $24 billion of profit. They take all the data from their sellers, they send it to the manufacturer, they then cause a loophole to sell it through a fake third-party seller to get around the Indian legislature. You have no recourse. You have no mechanism to even talk to anyone. You can lose your entire livelihood by the flick of a switch by some mid-level manager, could even be a contractor, doesn't even employed by the platform. And you can't do anything about it. What do you want to do if you want to start a business? You want to be the monopoly. When tech monopolies get huge scale, they take advantage of the supplier, not the consumer. Amazon breached European antitrust rules by using independent sellers' data for its own benefit. This is the absolute right positioning. Amazon would just go make up the price that they would want to sell it for and bill his company for the difference and say, oh, well, we had to lower the price. And so you owe us like $1.2 million, David. And they're going to pay that. And they would do it all over the phone. So there's no written record of any of this. But Amazon just knows that they have so much leverage over them. Amazon has said it has restrictions in place to keep private label executives, so the people launching their own white label products, from accessing data on specific sellers in its marketplace. In interviews, former employees and a current one said those rules weren't uniformly enforced. Employees found ways around them. According to some former employees who said using such data was a common practice that was discussed openly in meetings they attended. Does this come as a surprise? No, it doesn't come as a surprise if you've been listening to the show. We've literally been talking about this for months. Amazon optimized the secret algorithm that ranks listings so that instead of showing customers mainly the most relevant and best-selling listings, instead, it showed them, gives a boost to items that are more profitable for the company. They say, hey, look, Amazon has less market share of retail in the US than Walmart. And why is this an issue? Or why does this come up? Because what we talk about a lot on this show is that Amazon's a tech monopoly, absolutely. And tech monopolies at scale will naturally start to take advantage of their suppliers, their producers. So in Amazon's case, that's third-party sellers.
If left unchecked.
If left unchecked, which is basically exactly what's happened.
Yes.
And you're seeing this in the matchmaking, which we covered on the last episode, how Amazon's ranking its own products versus other third-party products. These third-party sellers were just agents of Amazon, right? These third-party sellers were basically just 1P sellers for Amazon. The Indian government passes a law and then Amazon's like, oh, we don't not only need to follow that, we need to basically put an entire system to obfuscate and subvert this law. Like mafia type of crime boss type of stuff. Would you say Amazon's a monopoly by these numbers? 70% of a potential $230 billion market of where you can sell stuff online as a 3P third-party seller. It's 70%. And I think these are actually somewhat generous numbers. So, yeah, I'd say Amazon's definitely a monopoly. And this is where people get it wrong, because they're looking at the monopoly conversation through the eyes of the consumer. They need to look at things through the eyes of the producer. Referral fee fulfilled by Amazon fees, seller advertising fees, and others very small, it's de minimis. Seller advertising fees now is over $10 billion in revenue. This is ads. We've covered how Amazon's just ballooning its ad business and has now become a top 3 digital advertising player behind the duopoly of Google and Facebook in very short order. Amazon cutting out third-party sellers from a product that's selling, right? I have 6 months. I've got a really hot product selling on Amazon. I stock up all this inventory in my warehouse, and then my sales drop to nothing because Amazon has cut me out of the deal. They've gone directly to the manufacturer or the supplier and bought it for cheaper because it's Amazon. Now I've got all this inventory sitting around, I can't move it. I guarantee if they audit Amazon's emails and they look at what some of these product managers have done with the PO information, Miss Vestager, if you're listening, that's a slam dunk. That's number one. Second thing, what tweaks are they making to the search algorithm? That when I punch in a product, why does it show me the Amazon batteries over Duracell and Energizer batteries?
What gets picked is the Amazon's preferred product. They have that nice little logo that pops up next to it. Often it's their products when they're selling it.
Yep.
There's no transparency into how that gets decided, and does that favor Amazon products or not?
Absolutely it does. Absolutely. Amazon's basically made this not a nice to have, but a must have. And they've pitted these suppliers against their competitors and said, well, if you don't give us equity, we'll just go to these other guys and they will. This is unheard of. Since when does a customer receive equity warrants from the vendor? Right? It just doesn't work that way. That's just not how it's done, right? It's a clear example of monopoly power. It's a clear example of who do platforms take advantage of? Anyone fill that in for me? Yes, it's not the consumer. It doesn't hurt the consumer. Who does this hurt? Suppliers.